Hi, this is Donna from Clever Crafting. I'm really pleased you were able to join me today. So we are making this cutie patootie little gift bag in a card. So this little gift bag will take a gift card or it'll take a chocolate. That's my personal favorite. You can also pop, maybe some fancy tea bags or a hot chocolate little sachet. This one is a coffee bag, goes nicely in there. You could also put some scratchies in it, maybe some cash. So there's any number of things that you can make. I've made mine with a Christmas design, but you can certainly make them for birthdays or any occasion really. So these are all the things that we need. Of course, I've got a link down in the description to the PDF supplies list. We're going to start with 3 6x6 inches. This pieces of paper, just a plain piece of cardstock, a card base and an envelope. So this piece that I'm starting with here is actually 10 centimeters by 14.3. So we're actually going to make the card front. And you can see that I've got two. I've chosen them from the same paper pad and I'm just cutting them in two pieces. Anywhere, it doesn't matter. And now we're going to mix and match these two pieces just to make a nice simple card front. Because we've got so much action happening on the inside, it's the card front. The card front can be nice and simple. Pretty, but simple. So I'm just popping some glue around this and I'm sticking it on that piece of cardstock that I've got. Now, that piece of cardstock that I'm sticking onto it could honestly be a piece of printer paper, or something that you've mucked up and you want to cover over, because we're just really using it as a placemat. So once I've done that, I then decided it needed a little bit extra. So this is a beautiful pearlized piece of cardstock that I have cut now with my metric rectangles, and I've cut that outside one, and then I think it's the metric rectangle number 2, and then the inside one is the number 5. But either way, just cut a nice little frame for whatever card size you've got. I'm trimming down the piece that I used for the top, and you can see now that all I'm doing is putting a piece of ribbon around it. I actually put some double-sided tape on the back of the card to attach the ribbon to, a little bit of glue around the edge, and I'm going to pop it on my frame so it looks like it's a matte layer. I also quickly made an easy little stamped greeting, and I put an embellishment on the top that matches the rest of my paper. So this is a PDF, is a cutting and scoring guide, and I've got a link to it below. I'm going to work in centimeters, but the PDF has it in centimeters as well as inches. So I've cut it down to 15 by 15 for centimeters only, and I am now going to score it at 1 centimeter, at 2 centimeters, at 13 centimeters, and at 14 centimeters. So please remember, you do not have to write these measurements down because they're all on the PDF. I've turned that a quarter of a turn, and I'm now scoring at 1.5 centimeters, at 6.5 centimeters, at 7.5 centimeters, at 8.5 centimeters, and at 13.5 centimeters. Now, for all of those of you that use inches, they are listed perfectly on the PDF and on the document, that the guide that we've made, so you don't have to worry about that. You can see that this has also got those little blue sections on our PDF that show you the areas that we're going to cut. So I am just cutting this. Please make sure that you cut off the score lines. I'm cutting the score lines so they're no longer on my major piece of card. After I've cut all 4 corners, I'm going to cut that center section. So the best way to do that is to fold that in half on the center score line. And I'm going to cut these 2 little squares off now that are scored in there. Of course, that's going to be 4 because there's 2 on each side. And then let's just make sure that's it. Look at that. That's perfect. It's cut in there. Now I'm going to do that on the other side. So I can see 2, so I'm cutting it. And on the opposite side, there's 2, so there's another 2 being cut. Then I'm going from the folded edge up to that point where I stopped cutting out the little squares that had been scored in there. And that gave me the perfect shape. Now I'm just cutting off the outer part of those 2 flaps. So not all of them, just 2 of them. So that looks pretty good. Now the larger flaps, that I'm not going to cut the flap off totally, I am just trimming about 1 mil or 2 mil off the edge. We're doing this to make sure that it's a beautiful smooth move for the pop-up. We want it to be nice and smooth when we're opening up our cards. So to that end, we're also going to cut the two larger flaps at an angle. Just cut them off at a little bit of an angle. So you should easily be able to follow the cutting and scoring guide. But of course, once you've cut it all, it's also a good idea to just put it against that and make sure, and look, we're all good and happy, so we can pop the guide away. Now all we need to do is fold and burnish all of those score lines. You can just do them all the same way. It doesn't matter because we'll be moving things around. All right, so now I'm on that score line of the first flap to the major part of our bag. It should be about 11 centimeters, and I'm going in approximately 3 centimeters from each end. So about 1¼ inches. And I am going to punch holes. I just marked that with a pencil. When I use my hole punch my holes, you've got to make sure that you're not punching on the flap. You've got to punch on the major part of the bag. I'm using a 3mm ribbon here, but you could use string if you wanted. And I am just putting that in. When I put it in, feeding in from the front to the inside part, I make sure it's running parallel to the top, to the outer edge of the bag. So this means that when we fold that flap down, which is what we're going to do, it's going to cover the handle connection. So we've just got that other side that we're doing there, and I'm just using sellotape on that because we don't need anything fancy. We just need to keep it strapped together. All right, I've added double-sided tape to the two long sides and to the two sides that we cut, the two little short ones that we cut. So I've burnished it really well to make it easy to remove the release paper, and I'm just folding them over the handles and burnishing that down. Okay, so now it's time to do the side pieces. So those wider flaps I'm just folding at the first fold line, and I'm folding my bag in half. I really need to make sure that the top is even. It doesn't matter about the bottom, but it does matter about the top. Now mine was out a little bit here, so what I've done is I've just refolded that base, and that's nice and flat across the top. So now we can join it. The base, it's not going to matter. I'm removing my release paper, and I'm just tucking in any little bits of tape that are hanging over the edge. And I'm folding that in half again over those flaps that are folded in. So that's our basic bag shape. All we need to do now is change those folds that are sticking out there to make them go in. And yes, I do know that there are holes down the bottom, but that's not going to be a problem. The last thing that we need to do now is we need to trim off that fold line. I know that seems a little bit odd, but honestly, this will make it sit so much better on your card, nice and flat. So it's a tiny little strip that I've cut off the bottom. I'm literally just cutting the fold open pretty much. So I'm going to pop some double-sided tape on those two flaps, which are going to form the bottom of our bag. And I'm trying to put it as close as possible to that fold line without going over the top of it. And we'll do that on both sides. Okay, so now I have now removed the release paper on one of those sides. So we're going to put this in the card. So you can see I've removed that release paper. The other side, which is facing up, I'm just temporarily holding that back so I can see how to position it. So I'm positioning it in the card up against, but not over the fold line. In actual fact, you are better off leaving it a little bit away from the fold line. Really hard to see there. Sorry about that, white on white. I'll have to think about that next time. So now we're just going to fold that other little flap back where it's supposed to be. So remove the release paper and simply close the card on that, and look at that. That has popped up beautifully. And there's that little card. All right, so you can see that I've used some of the leftover scraps to decorate a little bit on the inside. And then I am just going to stick our front on the front, the one that we made earlier. I've also used some of those extra little scraps to make an envelope to match, and look at that, it looks beautiful. The reason that I decorated inside this card this time is because I think that people would display it open. I really do. So, and please keep in mind that if you're putting a chocolate on this, you wouldn't be putting it through the mail. Be a little bit too thick, and you know, anything could happen to the chocolate, and we don't want that. So that would definitely be a case of being able to hand it over. I think that these cards would make an awesome teacher gift, or, you know, to a helper, to a volunteer. Any of those sorts of things are great. So it would be great help to me if you enjoyed this and learned something today, if you subscribed to my channel and shared it for other people to see and maybe find me. That would be a big help to me. If you've enjoyed it and you want to make your own and share it with us, please go over to our Facebook group. I'll pop a link below for that as well. So you could even just go over and have a sneak peek at our group and some of the other beautiful creations that other people have made for this design and others as well. Anyway, I'm glad you joined me, and until next time, stay safe and happy crafting. Bye.